Hi friends, I hope you had a wonderful Sabbath today. I did. I hope you took my challenge and tried it on for size. Don't forget, free book. Put a message in the box below and I'll send one to you. I wanted to start out tonight with Psalms 19, 2 verses. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. God's law is perfect. Doesn't need to be changed. It can't be changed. So I wanted to go over with you some more Bible verses pointing to the identity of the Antichrist. And a lot of these attributes are found in Daniel 7. And Daniel wrote most of this book. Nebuchadnezzar wrote a chapter also. And you'll remember in Daniel 2, and if you don't remember, just go read it. It's actually a pretty good story. Daniel 2, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that caused him a lot of anxiety, and eventually he summons Daniel to interpret the dream. And the short version is there was a statue and it had 4 metals. The head was gold, and then it had the chest and arms were silver, and the midsection was brass, and the legs were iron. And if you go through the early chapters in Daniel, it identifies for you in the words in the actual Bible. You don't have to guess what those metals on that iron represented, and they represented various kingdoms: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. Rome was the iron legs. So that's the prelude to what I wanted to show you in Daniel 7, because in Daniel 7 he has another dream. He has a vision, Daniel does. And it talks about in Daniel 7, and first of all the early Bible researchers, I'm going to call them, I guess, to figure out what was actually in the Bible instead of what they were being told was in the Bible. Luther, Zwingli, Huss, Jerome, Wesley, and some people that weren't religious even. They were still reading the Bible because it's interesting to read, and they all came up with the same conclusion as to who the Antichrist was by listing out the various attributes, if you want to, well, that's attributes of this power, and everybody pointed the same way to the same power, the same power. So I wanted to give you those. We had talked about that before, and I gave you some in Revelation, but here's Daniel. Daniel and Revelation go together. So the reformers all had this figured out. That's why the papacy hated those guys and hunted them down and killed some of them. But some of them got protected so that they could translate the Bible and also spread the gospel, the true gospel that's in the Word. So in Daniel 7, in verse 7, it talks about the 4th beast, which is, again, the iron beast. This is Rome. That's Daniel 7, verse 7. And it talks about in verse 8, I had to write all this stuff down. I can't remember this stuff by heart yet. So it arose among 10 horns. So in verse 8 it says, well, the end of verse 7 it says, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So, Rome was divided into 10 regions, and 3 of those regions were plucked up. The Heruli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. The Ostrogoths were the last, the final remaining group, and they were ripped up, and the little horn came up in between those 4 horns. 3 horns that were removed. And the Bible says that this little horn was more stout than the others. That's in Daniel 7:20. It says, "And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, Heruli, Vandals, Ostrogoths. Even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows." So he was powerful. This little horn that was coming up was powerful. Eyes like a man, and a mouth speaking great things against God. Daniel 7, verse 8, which we already read, and verse 25. And verse 25 says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time." So this is a power, this little horn with eyes and a mouth speaking. It's a power that is speaking great things against God. So we know this is an ecclesiastical power because haters speak against God all the time, and the Bible doesn't speak about every single hater on the planet because there have been millions of them. But this is an important entity, and the Bible is defining it for us so that we don't have to guess. It talks about wearing out the saints, that's saying that this power is a persecuting power. It's wearing out the saints. It's persecuting those that do not agree with its ideas. And that's in verse 25 that we just read. And also, it thinks to change times and laws. In that same verse we read. "And shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws." And we read in Psalms before, at the very beginning, the law of the Lord is perfect. It can't be changed. And so the Bible tells us when it says that the saints will be given into his hand until a time and the dividing of times. The Bible's telling us that this power is going to rule for a certain period of time. Times, and the dividing of times. And this is going to be not a 2-hour video, so I'm not going to explain all of that, but there are verses that talk about a time is 1 year, times is 2 years, and then the dividing of time would be a half. So you add those together, it's 3.5 years. Prophetically, this is a prophetic vision in Daniel 7, and prophetically, 1 day equals a year. So 3.5 years is 1260 years in prophecy, with the day is a year principle. And the Ostrogoths, as I was mentioning, they were the last of those the 3 horns of the first 10 that fell. They fell in 538. And in 1798 is when Napoleon stripped the papacy of its political power, and a secular government was established in Italy. So 538 to 1798 is 1260 years. So here is another piece of the puzzle that's pointing to this power. I'm not talking about Catholic people or the priests necessarily. I'm talking this is talking about the power of the papacy. This is how the Antichrist can't be a person, so to speak. That's why it can't be Barack Obama or George Bush or Queen Elizabeth or Hitler or Stalin or any people that wreaked havoc on the planet. It's not a person, you see, it's a power. It's a defined power. And this power, the papacy had ecclesiastical, church, which is, the Bible speaks of a woman as a church in the Bible. Church and state, it had both. All the governments at the time gave it their power, so it could impose its belief on people. And if you didn't believe the way the papacy said you needed to believe, you were persecuted in various ways. They killed millions. So, and this is part of that. It says in verse 23, it says, Daniel 7:23, it shall devour the whole earth. His influence, the papacy influence, will extend over the entire earth. And we see this still happening today. Very much so. He's everywhere. And we're told also well, let me read 7:23 first. It says, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And then we're told in verse 22 that this power will exist until the second coming. Verse 22 says, well, I'll start in 21. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So the only way you can have a power, the only way the Antichrist can survive through all these hundreds of years, nay, thousands of years, in fact, because the apostles told us, as I mentioned in another video, that the power was already starting to evidence itself. So it can't be a person per se. That doesn't mean that there won't be a person sitting in that seat of authority when all this stuff comes down, which is going to be soon. And his dominion, of course, is taken away when Jesus comes, and he takes the righteous to heaven, and the wicked are destroyed. And what happens after that is another video. So I wanted to give you those other verses, and then I wanted to also, I read a couple of statements from the Roman Catholic Church in another video, but these are a few others. And I have written down the sources so you can look them up to verify these. And this is talking about how the papacy has made efforts at changing God's law. And you can't change God's law. People can say they changed it, and people can adhere to some other whatever that a man, a human, has created or said is true, but that's not changing God's law. That's just they're doing their own thing. So, let's see here. This is noted in Father McGuire's New Baltimore Catechism and Mass of 1949. And it says, it bears among others the imprimatur of Francis Cardinal Spellman, Archbishop of New York. McGuire's version is, remember thou, this is about the fourth commandment in the Bible, which is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath. In it thou shalt not do any work. But you get to spend the whole day with Jesus and the Father. It just doesn't get any better than that. Well, when we're in heaven it'll get better, but that's a good thing on earth to have. One whole day, it's amazing. Okay, so their version is, remember thou to keep to keep holy the Lord's day. And this is to children and others for whom this catechism is intended. It is explained by means of the following questions and answers. And it's similar to what I read before, but it adds another element to it. And it says, Because you see, the Catholic Church changed the commandment, the fourth commandment in the Bible, and made it the third commandment. That doesn't change God's law. That's man changing some man stuff. So, question number 1, what is the third commandment of God? Answer, the third commandment is remember thou to keep holy the Lord's day. Question number 2, why does the church command us to keep Holy Sunday as the Lord's day? Answer, because on Sunday Christ rose from the dead, and on Sunday the Holy Ghost descended upon the apostles. Okay, that could be the case, that is the case that Jesus rose from the grave on Sunday. And it is the case that the Holy Ghost came down and landed on the apostles at Pentecost and so on. But the Bible doesn't say, therefore we're changing the holy day to Sunday. No. We're not changing the holy day. God made the seventh day holy. He only can do that. Man can't make a day holy. That's blasphemy. Third question. What are we commanded by the third commandment? Answer, to worship God in a special manner on Sunday, the Lord's day. More foolishness. Question 4. How does the church command us to worship God on Sunday? Answer, by assisting at the holy sacrifice of the Mass. That's not biblical. That's papical. I just made a word up. It's not biblical. The Catholic Church admits this change is the mark of her authority. Remember we talked about the mark of the beast being Sunday sacredness? They say that. I didn't make it up. They say it in a couple of different areas. Catholic Record, September 1st, 1933. This is the quotation. Sunday is our mark of authority. The Church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. No, it's not. That's foolishness made up by a man and stuck in a paper somewhere. That's not from God. Here's another one. This is from S.C. Mosna. I can't speak Italian or whatever this is, so forgive me. Storia della Domenica, 1969, pages 366 and 3 through 377. But here's the quote. Not the creator of the universe in Genesis 2, 1 through 3, but the Catholic Church can claim the honor of having granted man a pause to his work every 7 days. No, he cannot. God gave us that gift. Man gives us the opposite, honestly, but that's just another quote. Here's another one. This is from the Catholic Mirror, December 23, 1893. Go look these up. It's fun. Reason and common sense demand the acceptance of one or the other of these alternatives. 1. Either Protestantism and keeping Saturday holy, or 2. Catholicity and keeping Sunday. Compromise is impossible. Right. It's impossible. Stick with God's law. There's 2 more. This one is from Albert Smith, Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Baltimore, replying for the Cardinal in a letter dated February 10, 1920. If Protestants would follow the Bible, they should worship God on the Sabbath day. Thank you. That's what I've been saying. In keeping Sunday, they are following a law of the Catholic Church. Catholic Church or God. Choose God. And one more. This is from John Gilmary Shea, and it was in the American Catholic Quarterly Review, January 1883. Protestantism, in discarding the authority of the Roman Catholic Church, has no good reasons for its Sunday theory and ought logically to keep Saturday as Sabbath. So they call it their mark. They call it their authority. They say, if you guys that call yourselves Protestants follow the Bible only, you guys keep talking about that, why aren't you keeping Sabbath? Why do they say that? Because Sabbath is the fourth commandment, and it's the seventh day. That's why they say that. Because they know that those who say that they're Protestant but worship on Sunday, that those Protestants are keeping the day that the Catholic Church mandates, not the day that God gave us. The church knows that. And we know it too, if we just are honest about it and read the Bible and don't read the commandments that man hands out on a flyer or a napkin somewhere. God didn't change his law. And his law isn't grievous. It's to protect us. Pretty much every negative or bad thing that's happened in my life has been because I wasn't living in concert with his law. It's a tough lesson to learn at my age. And man, I wish I would have learned it a lot earlier. I could have avoided a lot of pain. But those lessons are instructive, and I hope that I'm going to try to start on my personal testimony tomorrow, because I've talked about it a couple times, and I'm hoping, I'm praying that it'll help somebody out there and maybe get to them before they have pain like I've had, and that Jesus Christ is the way. God is the creator. God gave us laws because he loves us. And yes, Jesus said when he was here that to love God and love man, and those are the two commandments. But when you love somebody, you want to do what they ask of you. He didn't do away with his 10 commandments, folks. He just didn't. He didn't come to do away with the law. He came to fulfill the law and show humanity that it can be done and that it's a positive thing. It's illustrative of his love for us. So, I hope this has been helpful. If you have questions, leave them below in the comment box. And I will see you sometime this week. I'll put out the first video of my testimony. And I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that it brings glory to God. That's what this is for. And I hope that's instructive to people that happen upon this channel. And I tell you, he is the only way. He's complete joy and happiness and comfort. And Sabbath is the best day of the week. So, okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.